Hi guys, the old man's back. Before I get on with another project, I've got a review to do for Banggood. They supplied me with a digital microscope, which I've already seen a review on, but I wanted to check it out for myself. So I've tried to run through some various examples of usage, and I'll give you my opinion at the end. So I won't dally anymore, I'll just let you watch it. The links, relative links, are in the description below. Alright? Catch you soon. Bye. Well, here's something I wanted to take a look at myself. Although Steve Jordan actually, I think, not that long ago reviewed the same item. Anyway, I got Banggood to send me one to have a look at and review. So here we are. I haven't done an unboxing because that's boring. Suffice to say, the bits that are required are in there, and the only thing I might mention is that the charging plug-in transformer thing is I can't remember what country that's for actually, those two pins. Anyway, no matter. The solution to that is to use a charging unit for your smartphone, 5-volt supply, and you get a USB cable, or you can plug into the computer. And instructions, quite adequate, tells you all you need to know, doesn't take long to put it together. And I've got some, there's a picture of the website page which I'll show you, and one or two stills from that website, and then we'll have a look and see how it performs. Initially, just a quick look at the Banggood web page and some Banggood stills. That's a front view of the unit, and then we see a side view which shows here the inverted base plate, so you can see the rubber feet. Three-quarter view, and finally a view more to the rear showing the column and rack adjustment system. So here's the unit. You've got a base plate, the display and the lens down there with the light source, and then looking at the back of it here, we've got a friction lock which actually you can leave slightly on to firm up, and then you've got a rack, basically a rack and pinion, which does all your focus. It's fairly simple. They claim 6 hours on a charge, and there's space inside this side actually, if I can show it. We've got an SD card point, a small USB connection socket, and the light control. Now let's lower the camera down and take a look from a different angle. This is about the halfway point at the moment, and it's a bit difficult getting it all in frame, but the controls are simple. On-off switch and an option for a 1 or 3 minute auto shut off. And we've got a menu, mode, and 2 arrows, which is basically plus and minus, with an OK for setting up on the menu. And I'll zoom in on the screen a bit more in a minute. That is fine control for focus. Pretty straightforward. There's the menu, and you can cycle through that. Quite a few options. There's resolution, we'll keep it at that, 1080. And then you can format the card incidentally from that last screen. Now that's about the lowest magnification, and we can fine tune the focus there. Now this sort of etched finish base plate is alright up to a point, but I just cut a piece of black card to go on the base, and that gives a better background. We'll put something in there. First thing I'll put in is just a circuit board, something which is very handy. I've always done quite a lot of electronics, not so much these days, but I can fine tune again, focus, pretty sharp, and the light level, if I change that, now that's so bright it's pretty much burned out, so you don't need to go up to the full value. That's down to low. That's quite a good compromise. So if you're wanting to check a circuit board for components, or to get information on components, or just as important, if we can get that in there, it won't be very level. And you can check your solder joints and the tracking, which is very useful if you had a failure and you're trying to track it down. Right, that was auto off, which is good. Easy to forget that you've left it on. Here's a number 1 center drill in a holder. Magnification is set at about 50%, so I'm guessing it's probably about 300 times magnification. And we want to inspect the tip. In fact, this one's been used quite a lot, but it doesn't look too bad. There's a lot of crud on there, but most of the cutting edge looks reasonable. Here's a piece of quarter HSS, which is ground for cutting a square thread, I think, actually. And it hasn't been honed, so the grinding marks are pretty obvious. Very hard to keep still here. This is about 50% magnification again. You can see some damage on that, what would be the left corner. And again, you can see there's a bit of damage there. The other side probably is not so bad. Well, I don't know, there's still some rounding. So that's a tool that would need to be quite well honed to get it back into shape. There's another piece of 1/4 inch square HSS, and that was ground for an internal square thread, if I remember. And again, you can see all the grinding marks. This one hasn't been finely honed either. But this is very useful to get a really close look and see what you've got to do to freshen up a tool. Another example. This is actually a piece of 1/8 tool steel, which is ground. I won't probably be able to rotate it because it'll roll away. Oh, there we are. I can bring that round. Again, we can inspect the surfaces. One other thing just on the high mag while we're there. Good example of colour printing. This would be CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow and black, I think. You can see the dot matrix. And that's another of those small pictures. So just to prove you can get in pretty tight. Well, here's another example, inspecting a single point thread. This is a 5/8. What would that be, 5/8 11? I can't remember, to be honest. So you can inspect the cut in quite some detail. This is the minimum magnification, so of course we can go in quite a lot tighter, which is probably not even necessary. There we are, that's quite a bit more magnification, still a lot more to go. Can't help the movement, it's my wooden floor. That's useful though, to inspect your cut. Now here's a rather well used insert. It's one of the small ones on a 3/8 holder. We can see the tip there has got a little bit missing. The other thing is you can check the radius of a tool slightly more easily with this much magnification. Here's another example of an unused insert. This is internal threading. And that appears to be good, but as I say, it hasn't been used yet. And here's another new insert. And you can see that's pretty clean, pretty good. So very useful to be able to assess the type of wear. In fact, you can also sometimes see a small crack which otherwise wouldn't be visible. And this has been sitting around. It's got dirt on it, but you can certainly see the machining marks. It's pretty clear. Just to look at some chips and see how they look. And of course these are sitting up from the surface, so the depth of field is limited. Purely out of interest. See how much the you can see some texture on the cut, and I think a lot of chips will show the same appearance. These chips look a bit cleaner. All depends whether you were roughing or finishing. The engraving on a vernier caliper, which close up is still pretty fine. This is my oldest one actually, out of about 4. And we could even look at the jaws actually, which are probably at the moment covered in bits. Yeah, there's some bits on there, but otherwise, considering these have been used for a great many years, they don't look too bad. Finally, just a bit of natural history. We're almost down to the max, so this is probably 550 times magnification, perhaps a little more. We can see the veins in a leaf and the cell structure. And that's the little leaf we were looking at. Pretty effective. So what's the verdict? It's pretty good actually. And certainly for shop use, where you might want to critically inspect a new grind on cutting tools and such like. Very, very handy. And you can take pictures or video. I forgot to mention in the mode settings you can leave it set on camera for stills or video for taking some footage, and that's actuated by the OK button. Pretty simple to set up, and it's one of those things where I think you'd find more uses for it eventually than you can think of initially. Very lightweight, easy to use, and I'm quite pleased with it. So overall I would say yes, I recommend that. And I think I mentioned initially that the list price is 56, and there's a 15% coupon that will be linked to, so it's pretty good value. They reckon 6 hours on one charge, and again reiterating what I said before, the charger that came with it is not any use for us, but it's no problem to put the USB cable into either a smartphone charger, 5 volt, or just plug it into a USB on your computer. Dead easy. I'll hope to review the other one soon, which hasn't arrived. It's a simpler version, extremely inexpensive, and we'll see how that shapes up, so it'll have to be a separate video. Okay, enough waffle again. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.